My last slide, how do I provide emotional support? This is important to me as a psychotherapist because I have several patients who come in my office and they have a support system, but they are not being supported in the way that speaks to them. The important part to know here is, how do I separate how I am feeling from how you are feeling? It kind of goes back to the conversation we had earlier. If someone tells me that they are feeling sad, mad, angry, hurt, I am not to tell them that that's how they should not feel. That's not okay. I would never want someone to tell me what emotions I should be experiencing. When we provide emotional support to our loved ones, we have to be there for what they are suffering with, not how we feel they should be responding to whatever is causing them pain. We are not responsible for curing our loved ones. Often we have loved ones who struggle and we want to help. So now we're pushing our opinions, or we really want to fix it. What we're not giving them is the empathy or the validation of just sitting with that pain and saying, I hear you, that sucks. And that's it. Coping with the ones you love in the way they like to cope. And so what that could look like is, if you have a best friend who's struggling emotionally and his best friend really likes to walk. If you don't like to walk, this may be the one time you say, hey, but my best friend likes to walk. I need to meet her needs because she's struggling right now. So I'm not going to push my coping skills on her. Instead, say, hey, instead of walking, why don't we go do something different? We're going to show up and say, no, if this is what helped you and I want to support you, then this is how we will cope together. Coping with the ones, oh, I did that one. Listen first, then validate. We want to ask the question, why are you struggling? How does this feel inside? Make me understand. Help me understand why this hurt. And when they do that, we are not to judge. We are not to say, well, but it could always be a lot worse, because that's invalidating. What could be worse to me could be worse to you. Or it takes away how I'm feeling now. It feels dismissive. And so if I'm telling you I'm hurt, I just need you to listen and tell me it's okay for me to hurt in that way. Then we go to normalize not being okay. A lot of people I hear, their goal is to be happy. The goal, I want to be happy. Happiness is not a goal, it's an emotion. And so we have to normalize not being okay. We are simply not going to experience happiness all the time. The same way we should not feel sadness or frustration or anger. We have to recognize that we have emotions, and we have a lot of them, and we will experience all of them, and that's okay. Encourage professional help. So while being a psychotherapist, I have so many people who don't agree with therapy because they feel it does not work. I often tell my clients when they come in and they are skeptical about therapy, and there's a lot of therapy interfering behaviors, the goal is not for me as a therapist to read your mind. My goal is to help you read your mind. There's something inside of you that only you have the answer to, and I'm here to help you reach that, to tap into that, to connect dots that you are unable to connect because you are not objective to the situation. Encourage professional help, because in a polite communities, we don't encourage it. And so we don't get it, and we suffer continuously because of it. Ways to motivate and encourage. Motivation and encouragement sounds like, hey, you got this. And even when you don't think you do, you can, and I'm here to support you. It does not sound like, hey, you're not doing enough. You need to do more or do better. That's not motivation. And that's not encouragement. We want to make sure we are using positive affirmation and language when we're talking to our loved ones to provide emotional support. And lastly, we don't get to choose our emotions, but how far are you willing to take it? What this means is when something makes me sad, it's not because I chose to let that thing make me sad or angry or frustrated, right? I can't choose the emotion that I experience, but I can choose how I behave or how I address that emotion. I can choose my actions. So though you make me angry and I can't control that emotion, I can control the behavior that could potentially make the situation worse. I'm angry, so now I want to punch you. The emotion is valid. The behavior is not. So whereas I feel this emotion, I still have the power to change how I respond to it, which then gives me back the power over that emotion. And that is all I have for you all. Any questions, concerns, comments, suggestions, recommendations? How far are you willing to take it?
Carly, you know, that's my line.
Yeah, Joanna and I talked this morning, and I said that line to her, and she was like, no, I'm going to write that down.
Because I think that's the line. When your emotions are wherever they are, you know, in education, we have the zones of readiness to learn. Mm-hmm. At times are emotional. You're not ready to deal with it logically. So I have to try to recognize that I have a choice. And I was like, I don't like that part. But what, okay, well, how far are you willing to take this? Because I have had the tendency and have, my people are you know, I have snapped on a couple people. Lord, it's still working through me. But what she said that got me was like, well, how far are you willing to take this? And I'm like, well, how far am I willing to take it? And that part to me helped to ground me to really think about the next time somebody tried to take my parking spot. For real.
Well, and what are you willing to risk? I mean, is it worth it at the very end of the day? And that goes back to how far are you willing to take it? Because, yeah, I can beat you up and get this parking spot, but now there may be some other consequences that I was not exactly ready for after I've done all.
X.